The truth is, Canada faces serious problems. Sky-high housing costs, excessive wait times at hospitals, and taxes that devour your earnings. What not many people ask is, does this truth apply equally to every place in Canada? To find the answer, I present the story of Nova Scotia's leader sharing a generational vision, regular newcomers building their lives here in what may soon become the best Canadian province. To build a great life for you and your family, the province needs to have three components: affordable homes, free and reliable healthcare, and economic growth. Let this dot represent one average monthly salary in Ontario. This is how many salaries you need to save up for an average down payment. Now, compared to what it looks like in Nova Scotia, huge difference for young families. This is official data from the Canadian Real Estate Association. But will it stay this way? Let's ask the Premier. Right now, the average home price in Nova Scotia is $398,700, which is less than half of what it is in BC, Ontario. How will the province prevent the price from going up in the future?
The solution to a housing problem is more housing. So we're very focused on construction starts, getting more housing built and creating opportunities for that to take place. We also know that to get the housing built, we need people. We need skilled tradespeople, right? So we've done a couple of things on government policy to make sure that housing starts are up and we're building it so we don't have the problem we've seen in other areas. But one of the programs we have is called this MOST program, More Opportunities for Skilled Trades. And under that program, it's very innovative. Lots of jurisdictions are looking at it, but anyone under 30 years old who's working in a skilled trade doesn't pay any personal provincial income tax on their first $50,000 of income. So it's a huge tax incentive, and it's really designed for the long term to get younger people into the skilled trades, but also in the short and medium term to attract younger skilled tradespeople to Nova Scotia.
So many people overlook working in this industry, but once you learn how much you can make in the construction field, you'll be surprised. Betsy over here from Dora Construction, tell me, how much can I make working here?
Carpenters on our sites can make anywhere between $25 and $35 an hour, depending on your experience.
That's really good. I'm enticed, so how do I start?
Well, why don't we give you a tour and I can talk about that.
Sounds great, let's do it. Yes, I had to check what the Premier said and went to speak with frontline workers in construction. And what I found made me confident that this is only the start for Nova Scotia. Once you get PR, what's next for you?
I'm pretty happy to work with Dora. I enjoy a lot to live here in Halifax, and so I can see me in 2, 3, 4 years working here, exactly here.
So do you intend to stay in Nova Scotia after PR?
Yeah, I love Halifax. I live in West Bedford. It's a good school for my son. My wife lives there. You come here to stay.
In case you're an immigrant with construction experience and you want to move to Nova Scotia, listen carefully to this brief explanation of how the program works by the Immigration Minister of Nova Scotia.
Right away, it's the job offer, and I'm sure that many of your viewers would know that too. So making sure that you do have a connection to an employer here in Nova Scotia, you have that job offer in hand, then you apply to the Nova Scotia immigration stream, so putting an application through. So once you have your nomination from the province, you can then apply for your temporary work permit or then ultimately your permanent residency. As an example, drywallers, roofers, and so other occupations that are connected to the home building sector. But as we've mentioned, it's a pilot and we want to be able to see how this is going to unfold. If it's successful, who knows what the other options might be.
So that MOST program, designed to help us build, designed to get people in the skilled trades, and then other government policies too around like the housing task force, special planning zones to speed up permitting process where it's appropriate. We're concerned about the cost of living, we're concerned about the housing shortage and therefore the cost of housing, but we've tried to be very targeted with very specific, innovative government policy to address it.
And yet, many people are renting. How is your government helping young people step into home ownership?
Through government policy, we try to make sure that there are opportunities with, mortgage down payment programs where we can help somebody get into the home for the first time by supporting them to get a down payment through government programming.
It's fair for you to think big politicians say big words, but is it real? To check this, I started asking around. and my fellow entrepreneur shared an incredible story of how one of his employees purchased a home in 2 years after moving to Nova Scotia with a modest income.
My employee he's the husband of the house, and his wife is just became a nurse, just got her license. I think she earns a modest like 50 to 60,000. Let's just say $50,000. The guy, he earns 30,000, which I paid him for. So literally $80,000 pre-tax, and they just bought this home. What I learned from them is, first, they use the government program to literally have zero money out of their pocket to buy this home. And second is, they just immigrated here like 2 years ago. They've been very wise with their spending. The husband literally told me they wanted to buy a car, but because they want to buy this house, they prioritize their expenses. So they save a little bit of money just in case. This is a big picture. So maybe they didn't look at Halifax, or they looked at Halifax, but Halifax, this major city, has become so unaffordable for some of the young people. Almost some people are losing hope. But instead, they look at the tertiary market, secondary market like Kentville, which is where they closed the home at. So that home actually cost about $360,000. The example just illustrated my points previously. They made some very wise choices. They educated themselves, and they've been very disciplined about their finances. If they can do it, a 2-year new immigrants can do it. I don't see why not. Like, every young people in Canada cannot do it.
I would say, as this province grows, I want to make sure that people see themselves see their future in this province, so that they see the opportunities on a very personal level.
We're getting into the second part, Healthcare Nova Scotia. It's about life or death. I went on the streets of Nova Scotia to ask everyday people about their experience and got 2 different views.
I've never had any issues with the healthcare in Canada. I am very fortunate in that I have a family doctor. So it has worked for us so far, but I know many who it has not worked so easily for.
When I came to Canada in 2021, I was playing soccer and I broke my leg. I had a full ACL tear. So I was really confused because I had no idea. I came from India, and the way I dealt with was to contact my Dalhousie Health and Wellness Center, and they were great. No complaints there. But the thing is, it was very time consuming, and the kind of appointments I had, it was I think I had 6 months of time to have just an MRI report or an X-ray done.
Ominous wait times around Canada are caused by lack of doctors and nurses, which are often immigrants. Many people say we don't need more immigrants, we need the right immigrants. First of all, do you agree with this?
Population growth is incredibly important to the success of our province, for sure. We know that a growing population puts pressure on the healthcare system, on the housing issue. So we know that it's not without its challenges. At the same time, we have some urgent needs in our workforce.
So what types of immigrants do you want to see in Nova Scotia?
If you look at the immigration streams, certainly healthcare, it would be prioritized, and skilled trades are prioritized as well, just because those are needs we have as a province. But really, population growth in general, this is a great province. I want people to experience this province and to make their life here.
Hannah, a Filipino nurse, came to build her life in Nova Scotia. I'd like you to hear her story to learn about the real Nova Scotia from our frontline workers. Why did you choose this province out of the entire country?
Well, to tell you honestly, it wasn't my first choice.
Yeah?
I have to tell you honestly.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have relatives in Alberta. My cousin Nico, he watches you, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I saw him liking your post in Instagram
Oh,
too.
I appreciate it.
I can't say I love the weather, but compared to the rest of Canada, Nova Scotia has milder climate than the rest, except Vancouver. And I like the coastlines. I like living in the waterfront.
Tell me honestly, you started working as a nurse here in Nova Scotia.
Mm-hmm.
What bonus did you receive from the government?
Oh, so I am about to start my job as a nurse after 7 months of waiting. So I'm going to start, and I have a bonus of 5,000 Canadian dollars.
You said 7 months. Why did the process take so long?
Oh yeah, so it's good that NSCN, which is the Nova Scotia College of Nursing, has an expedited process for nurses now. They started on May 2023, wherein they're going to, as nurses, international educated nurses, we can skip the NNAS process, if you're familiar with that. It's the Nursing National Assessment Association for Nurses. They skip the process by expediting nurses from 7 countries. So for those 7 countries, it's an expedited process wherein you only need to verify your license and a criminal record check. And then if you pass the board exam, the NCLEX, then you can be a registered nurse here.
If you're interested in immigration, check our website below for more resources, including AI to reduce legal red tape for students, and alternatively, feel free to book a private meeting. All the links will be in the description. What about your daughter? Do you see a better life for her here in Canada or in Saudi Arabia?
Well, of course, her life will be better here.
In what ways? Why do you say that?
I can say with the opportunities. In Saudi Arabia, it depends on your nationality, actually. So if we're Filipinos, we have limited opportunities in Saudi Arabia. Living and growing up, it would be best if we do it here.
Hannah's daughter will grow up in the province largely shaped by the direction of this premier, who shared a bold vision for Nova Scotia to 10x its growth through selling energy. Not many people realize, but the Bay of Fundy is a natural treasure that Premier Houston aims to leverage.
In the energy space, this is like, I see so much potential for our province. So much potential in offshore wind, incredible wind speeds, and it blows a lot. It's kind of can be pretty windy, right, on a consistent basis. But the Bay of Fundy, as you say, like if you took every single river in the world and added them together, you may come close to the strength of the Bay of Fundy at the changing of tides. And it just goes back and forth literally like clockwork. So between the wind and the Bay of Fundy and other tidal sources as well, so much potential, but it's completely untapped. That would be my wish, that in 10 years we've somehow found a way to harness that. There's a lot of research happening, and technology and innovation is helping, but I mean, it's been tried. They spent almost 2 years building a turbine and bolted it to the bottom of the ocean floor, and it lasted about 8 minutes because the strength of the tide was so remarkable. It was moving huge boulders and other things, and it just destroyed the turbine was there. And then they had a second go, strengthened it, made it a little stronger, and I think it lasted 15 minutes or something.
We're at point A, where there's no power taken from Bay of Fundy, versus point B in 10 years. And Nova Scotia becomes a power hub, not just for domestic exports, but also for abroad. What prevents that from happening? Is it just technology?
There's a few moving parts around impact on everyday life, right? So our fishing industry is incredibly important to us, so we can't jeopardize that. So we have to make sure that the research can kind of make sure that those things can coexist. They're not problems to solve, they're problems to do. They've already been solved in many ways. Some of them still need to be solved, but we got to do it. And we got to be respectful of Nova Scotians as we go along that path. When we get there, the economy of our province will be dramatically different in a very positive way. We talk about tax reductions. When we have revenue from energy, the production of green energy, which the world wants, green hydrogen, green ammonia. If we could be a powerhouse in there, and those export revenues are coming into the province, then you can talk about meaningful investments in tax reductions, meaningful investments in healthcare, in the education system. All these things are possible when the economy is going that much stronger.
Speaking of taxes, they're the highest in the country here in Nova Scotia, which can put a lot of pressure on you if you're trying to build your life. But with small adjustments, the Premier is trying to level the playing field. Getting into your favorite topic, Texas, what needs to happen for Nova Scotia to lower our 15% tax, which is the highest in the country right now?
As Premier, I try to be very upfront with people that we need to invest in Nova Scotians. There are certain investments we have to make. So we're talking about housing. The province is making significant investments in housing, in billions of dollars, $1.7 billion in one fund. We're investing in healthcare, significant investments in healthcare. So there are investments that we have to make that set our province up for the future. And if we make the right investments, then we'll all be better off for it. They'll be paid for it. But this is a time when we have to invest. But in this budget right here, we did announce a major income tax relief. the indexing of the tax brackets. Over 3 years of indexing, I think that investment is close to $200 million that will remain in the hands of Nova Scotians, right? And that's ultimately what we want.
One interesting thing is Premier Houston often advocates for both urban and rural Nova Scotians. So he used this chance to address the Prime Minister. I'd be flattered if Prime Minister watched my videos. Probably not, but if you could send a message to the federal government about your views on carbon tax or your perspective on how we can both fight climate change and reduce the pressure on everyday people, what would you say to them?
But first off, he might actually be watching them because you get a lot of people, you get a lot of fans. And my message to him through this format would be the same as it is through face-to-face meetings and letters and everything else, is we totally respect, we know our climate is changing, we've experienced it here in Nova Scotia, and we know that we all have an obligation to do what we can to preserve our planet and government for sure. And we're on board with the federal emissions targets that have been set for 2030 and 2050 and beyond. We're totally on board with that. The only thing that I would say to the Prime Minister and his team is we're on board. We can get there. We don't think a carbon tax is part of that journey to get us there. It doesn't work in a province like Nova Scotia, which is still pretty rural. Where I live, where most Nova Scotians live, it's not an option to take public transit. It's not an option to, jump on your bicycle and take your kids to ballet or to hockey practice or to work or walking to, these aren't options, right? So we still have to drive. A lot of the emissions are coming from transportation when we still have to drive anyway. But what I really think could happen in transportation is we could be a green hydrogen powerhouse, like a real producer and exporter. And maybe Nova Scotians could drive hydrogen fuel cell car. Then we can really, support Nova Scotians and support the planet.
What would you tell to someone looking into moving to Nova Scotia who hasn't pulled the trigger yet? Would you give them a green light, a red light? What would you tell them? Maybe some advice?
Watch Max's videos and equip yourself with knowledge. Know everything you have to know about the place before moving. Prepare yourselves, because even for us, we are very prepared. We can say that we are very prepared, but nothing can prepare you really coming here. And I think in anywhere when you're moving, you just really have to prepare yourselves. And for those who are planning on coming to Canada with the immigration process, I can say that you really have to build yourself.
How do you want to be remembered, and how do you see the future for the province?
I remember when I was running to be leader of the PC party, I was talking to a friend of mine one night, and campaigns have these highs and lows, and he said, look, you'll be leader of the PC party. I know that for sure, and you'll be premier. And both of those things kind of seem pretty far away in that moment. But he said, but the question that I have for you is, in 30 years, is anybody going to care that you were premier? So in other words, what are you going to do? I think about that a lot as we make decisions and as we try to move the province forward. If during our time in office we can fix healthcare and get housing and do all those things are really important. But I think right-sizing the demographics of the province is what's critical for our success. So as we grow, we're right-sizing our demographics. We're getting younger. We're getting moving forward. So I'm excited about where this province is right now because I can see where it's going, and I know we're on a really good path.
I thought you'd say the healthcare app.
Technology, AI for sure.
They pull out their phone, they think, oh, Tim Houston.
Well, since you mentioned it, but we do have an app for healthcare, the Your Health NS app, and this is a good piece of technology, a good innovation, and I think that as the face of healthcare changes, like it really wasn't that long ago that you call you send word to the doctor and they show up on a horse and buggy at your house, right? Well, those days are gone, right? And then maybe you go through, you don't feel good in the morning, you wake up, you phone your doctor. But I actually think that we'll get to a place where you wake up in the morning, you don't feel good, you go on the app and you look through some of the technology, some of the AI or the chatbot will direct you to the best place for you on that day. It could be a pharmacy clinic, it could be your family doctor, it could be a mobile clinic, it could be the emergency department, it could be calling an ambulance. But using the technology, we can get you to the right place at the right time and get you the right care you need. So technology and healthcare for sure.
We're gonna do another check and ask a nurse if this innovation is actually working.
Called NS Health app. or the maple.
Have you used the app?
Yeah, I used it.
What do you think of it?
It's good. It depends also on your condition. If it's an emergency or an urgent one, they try to call you right away. But if it's something that is not urgent or not an emergency, they can make you wait for until in the afternoon. Let's say you logged into your account and told them your symptoms. It depends. And if it's not urgent, sometimes they take the whole afternoon.
The time has come for my answer. We host events around Canada, and many people come up and ask, you could be anywhere in Canada, why Nova Scotia? Here's my European perspective. This province is comparable to Norway, that a few decades ago was quite modest, but it all changed through the leadership's investments in energy. Now, it's one of the most prosperous countries in the world. I think Nova Scotia is on the rise, and I want to be here contributing to it. The reason why I called this channel I Am Canada is I believe we all share responsibility in the growth of where we live. I'm part of this country, so are you. We're all Canada. And let's be honest, nowhere is perfect. But together, with forward-thinking leaders and incredible people, we can turn Nova Scotia into the best Canadian province. I appreciate your time. Make sure to like this video and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'll see you next Sunday.